Tashi delay. So this afternoon, we are going to explore magnets and how they work.
that thing ingu jabla ngazogi ani kablengi korda ani kablengi lega chidang khande imadi ma shugis.
So if we could have some help handing out, I hope we have enough to have for each group one green box.
Rukha re la ene dene gam re re. Rukha re la gam re re.
All right, let's begin by taking them apart and playing with them a little bit. Try pushing the ends together one way and then flipping one and pushing the ends the other way.
That kablen ladus lagwa chane ne ko kharsure konjugi da yuwa ta indi zambala ni kheba kharidu du si das ne ni tamungyal dus tu di khari chungo do yan ne di jewo gyane kharsure tu yende zambala ko ani kharin yonggudo on the jig si das.
And after you've flipped one side back and forth, try flipping the other side back and forth and see if you see something similar or different.
Da tangmungyala kablen jig da sung shembadi ne di rwa dogre chine ni ko khari yonggudo da ene ne ya kablen shem niba jura niba di da sung ne ya tangbodi ni ne di dogre china khari yonggudo di si das.
So what do you notice about your magnets?
진짜 다 kablen de ge korla ni kyan zu khari thonan chung sons la ni do sidu tu dos ani. Okay, so two ends when they bring together they attract, and two ends when they bring together they push against each other.
Okay, yep. So there's one side where they attract, there's the other where they push apart.
제가 다가라 레스라 네데 니 라 두 텐레 칭에기 네니다 야파 뷰레 칭에기 네니도 요레스.
Is there anything about these two magnets that is, so if you had to, if I told you, put these two so that they have the same orientation, so that they have the same properties, put them together in a way that they are the same, what would you do?
Da di kablen ni garwa dus karsore ni tile shanes kuni shagdan di khande shas labaina kuni niga gi di karsore keje masuna niga keje chungbani di ani takda shas la ne shabaina khande shagu res. kablen ni gi ro da bena nga ju mini bangtik lana kuni ni chungba tik lana ni 미지기 고여서 심바데 골렘네 디고르와 온디나시 디그당 칸데스 디기 바스. 따드니니 칸데스 디기 베스. Okay, so the bar with the end dot on the end, they will put them together.
You put the dots on the end together. Okay. So let's see what's going on when we put the dots on the end together. So when the dots are together on the end, they repel each other along the sides, right?
저다 오기 틱렉 아버지도와 네 영인이도 샤와이나 아니 갈적이도
Yeah. And when they're like this, you can try to push the tops together, and they also repel.
Today you wake up so any ceremony they do shower, going into those two by Naya, Pijatan Rezig the West.
And when we try to put the bottoms together, they also repel when we started this way.
Any Wogi, Karsure, Nini, the Andus Chem, Koran Dondu, Yawaina, Burezig the West.
So let's think about why we chose this way to say they're alike rather than if we flip one upside down. So we have a dot on the top and the dot on the bottom. Now they are attracted together.
That the name Mashawa so a jiggy any card the Jurnerwa, any Tiglikabu, you said that Mevachini, Yamdu Shabaina, any Jadru with the West.
And when we lift it up, the tops attract.
The nene Nico Yakadu Shabaina, Semoni the Jadru with us.
And when we flip it down, the bottoms attract.
Wall Amadus Cheva 9, walking in the Jadru with us.
So, can you use anything you've learned about charge to tell me why this orientation they would be opposite, and this orientation where they repel, they would be the same?
That can Kazan Lokurgi, Nikejo, Samludanes, Ra, any Karsure, Sekabu, when you do Sha in the Pijatan Residua, any Sekabu Chigiat, Chigmati, and the Jadru to us. Just a Lokurgi Kejo, Samludane, any Dinini, the day young what the Kari, Cheney in Sares. And saying you what they call Paburezidua, and take chick that say maybe you should judge Rajara only. Okay, so when two like charges are oriented in the same way, then it repels, and when the opposite charges, are closer to each other, they attract.
Right. We saw with charges that like things repel and opposite things retract. Sorry.
Da kazang anzo lokurla sheundu lokur ni tsungbaina ro ta tsungbaina khoni burezegi doa ta mi tsungbaina therezegi doa.
So magnets are the same way. Like things repel, opposite things attract.
Kablen le tagaran res ani kablen gi ne thumba ni shabaina khoni burezegi re ne mi thumba ni shabaina su jadu res.
But magnets are a little bit different than charges in that when we have a magnet, we have the two types of magnet is always together in one.
Ta ine lokurda kablen ni para la khebar chimbuchi gyores di khares la baina kablen la iman khadu ina ya koni michung ba ni yorwa di ni khongbuchi gina la khadu na yungres koni ni nyam do yong de gres kenswa jesa ta di ne ni la nga zu gi ming la chang ne da lo ne ni ta gerwa di ming da dang gi ani khoni ni min da we kheba twen barwa jesa kablen gande jin baina khola di ni ne ni di changgu chang ne yungres.
So to convince yourself that each and every magnet has both kinds, it's like positive and negative, but we call it north and south. For a magnet, one end is always north, the other end is always south.
So that local language pomogi yewa cheba, chegiorwa, local minda, pomogi yewa cherwa, the Kablin lay the minda, kebardingazo, any negi gone chene, any chigla changni, chigla honeti dores, rwa, any carsore, dunini, that neni gone kebajegi.
And for my magnet, if I have one magnet and I cut this in half, it will still have north and south, and the other one will have north and south.
So that the Kablin Jikine, Kablin the Tumbuni Tangbaina, Ra, the Chani Yungurwa, Chaniga Sosone, any Honage the Chane Jikche, Honage the Chane Jikche, to Yungures.
To convince yourself of this, orient your magnets so you have the dot on the bottom of each one and they're stuck together.
that in the imbadi Karsore, Lola Charde, Gichedos, when a Kablini or Kablini di Tanginashi, and those Yalandas, Kunini Neni Jarne.
And then bring your stack of magnets close to your neighbor's stack and see if when you bring them together with the dots both on the bottom, they should repel. And if you flip it, it should attract if they're all acting like one magnet now.
That in any Jari in the Dangazu di Kabling Kumbu Chignashi, Samlo Dang Chogores, Ra. The in the Digi Chawa Chetan, the Tanji Kabling Chungju in Chawa Chetan, the Jigba Chigres, Chetan Kabling Shimbajik, Kanzu Yeda Karsore, Ruga Shimba, Jigi Kabling, Nidus Jashaba, the Kunin Tila Kimaina, Ra, Ani, Netumba Ni Leo, the Dore Chigre, Nemitumba Ni Le, the Tenre Chigres.
So test it out with your neighbors, see?
Oh, it works
the same way.
The Tangi Kamle, Jangba Radio because Chawachidana, Chigbaredo, Kakaredo, see das. Tumba Kena. Just the Kabling Ringbu, the Kabling Chignashi, Samlodan Ra, Jarvadi, and it Chigi Chawadi Chigi to West, see the Asra, that the Kabling Ringbu Chig Chana Kola, Neni or Ra, Ne Chig the any gun, the Chet, Ne Chig the Wogi, the Chagi or Ra. Did you do any Shamba Neni the Tayundu, and in Bure Chair, the Tenre Chair, the Chigi to West?
Okay, so let me give you a question. So, what we can see when we play with our magnets is that any two poles that are, we call them poles, the like sides repel, and the opposite sides attract.
That the Kabling Tangi Shubanashi General, Kabling called Nini Tuyundu, a pub Burezi Rester, Mudi Sambanashi, any Changda, Changneta, Changne Tuna, Burezi, Soneta, Lone Tubaina, Burezi Res, the Ne Dode, Changne Chigan, Hone Chikebaina, Kunitere Chigres.
And we have a force here that does not require the magnets to touch.
That and the dealer shook Gaesera, Kablini para shook Gaedilla, Co Rego Midwa, Kablini Tugu Midwa, Matunea, Yantaki Chebekasoni, shook Gap to us.
This is force at a distance. You should be able to push your magnets across your desk.
Digida Karsure. Yantagi, any chene yang, any shugi, Chawad Chetuegi, any Karsure Chetugenji Chagores, Chezan, Kablini, the Josigal Shane, Nini, Tumbachini Shawaina, Jigi Chigla, Maribala, Pa, Bugatan Tugures.
And notice the further you are away, the weaker the field is. So when you're far away, nothing happens. You have to bring it pretty close before something happens.
That when you baragi Karsure, Shuk Tebia, Shuk Tebia, the Yantala Rally Doa, Ko Yanda Don Chimbuina, K Nubake Tebia Chingmidua, Kablingi, Jigi Shuk, the Shimbadi, Tebala, Roani Kunini, Ta, Nibuko to us, Yantagi Kebas Gudua.
And the fact that whatever is causing this field always comes with north and south. It doesn't matter how many times we cut this magnet, we would always end up with north on one side, south on the other side.
So the Kabli Tangi Lokur the Minda, Lokur Ladi Lokur Poineda, Moina Kokirkan Nigidwa, Dida Midawa, Kabli Lainara, Kabli the any Tumbu Hazula Tangba in a Yas, Tumbuchunju Hazula Tangba in a Yako. rwa ani di tumbu chungwa re la ya karsure ne ni yungu yo res.
So now you can see the picture here. You can take the magnet and you can cut it in half, and you can cut it in half, and you can cut it in half, all the way until you get down to the atomic level.
Dinde kita kable derwa ko cha ni chene ma duthen la ma to ki pa do che ba ina ya ko ne ni yungu yo res direla.
And for electric fields and gravitational fields, you had to trust me on what they looked like. For magnets, it's a little bit easier to try to see them.
Da log da sai tin shu ko la she yun di rwa log gi rawe ko la shi gi res sai tin shu gi rawe ko la shi gi yo res di kap su nga zu thong thue me ba rwa ani dinde ji yo res la ni ma de she ya ba ina yo sha zi ye ma do yo ma res thap she yo ma res ina ya lo khablin do khablin che rwa do khablin gi rawa di nga zu ni lo la char de yo res.
When you have a compass,
Tadi chokden color wa chokden color.
So when you have a compass, you have a little piece of metal that is free to spin, and normally it's actually a little magnet that's free to spin so that it will line up with the Earth's magnetic field.
Da chokden color nangi daji doa dadi ni khare ki swe bares laba ina ko khablin chinju res ro khablin yangbo jikche and dinde ki khablin yangbo di ene serji kala ko sha yo res ko yo basunza khora dus gujo rawan du tang tu yo res.
If you have a compass that has not spent too much time sitting close to strong magnets, the red part should point roughly north.
Da dinde ki kharsure chokden color nangi daji doa Dadi kesi rwa ni chokden kolo di yang ngarja shukchimbu ji ki thila khablin shukchimbu ji thila gyurung bu shayo na an dadi ki yodan di tos khar shukin thebgi res di me na dadi dus sha ba ina dadi ani phagi chol tyong gu res dadi ki khwa kha tyong gi res na na ani changcho la da tyong gi res.
It is moving in response to the Earth's natural magnetic field.
Da Quran de kharsure ngazu gu gyo tang ba ina thama dadi kha chosa jorwa ani changcho la chogi res ani di choya di khares la ba ina ngazu sai khola yorwa sai khola khora ani khablin chimbu jina sincha de res khola khablin rawa yore jeda sai khablin gi sai ani kharsure khole khablin rawa di da ani chokden koloni tagda jine khabdu khene ani dadön chi yores.
But when we bring our magnets close to it, we can make it spin.
Ta ina ngazu gi khablin ji ge khoda nyewu ki unsuna ani dadi gi khabjo de ngazu gyurthugu dwas.
So you can bring your magnets close to your compasses and make them spin. They're spinning because that is how the magnetic field, so they're turning in response to the magnetic field.
제가 다디 카블린지 다 코란다 녀사 키운데로와 아니 녀사 키운기 카블린지로 딜라 라와죠레스 딜 라와디다 아니 다다 초등 콜로기 다니디 아니 코 카르수레 초등 콜로라 라와디기 틱도 저게니 슈겐체네 슈겐체 바딜라디네 아니 코 카초단디 다 카블린기 아니 라웨 카조라 식데 카초단미나 주루레스.
And in fact, if we have many of these little pieces of metal that can spin, if I put my very strong magnet in here, let's look and see how they line up.
Dadi ki de las ani khablin di sharwa khablin di shayindi tada naku chinju duzurwa ta khablin di gi rawa khangdu khyosa di la ani choru res jeza da chinju de kordan di gi ani khare tyong gi resna khablin di gi rawa di di thala countries koyo ba di ani tuen thugu yores.
Notice the pattern.
Quran zugi nedan di countries re do di chik si dance ko ba sura dila.
In a few moments, I'll put this up at the front of the class, and you can come up and look at it more carefully.
And the jela gala get it in the doing la shaggy is any kinds of jealousy up in a digress.
Because I think it would be hard to see the pattern just as me walking by.
Just the tar and money, any gala those combajagi doing so I can't see pitch seek the way of mares.
So, if we look at how these spin and line up, when I put the magnet in the center of all these little spinning compasses, I get you can see they form lines that go from one side to the other. They're going from the north side to the south side.
Chidada Kablin Rawa say the Kablin Rawa the condition of some Tangi or Reslana, ko Changne, any Rawegi, Tik to Tungi or Rest, Tune, Nikwala, Sugar Reslavaina, any Honela Sugar your rest, Ra. Chida Kablin Rawagi, Tik your Ra, Tik the Antana, Tik Mabu, the Tumbanation in your rest. Chida, the Kablin Rawa, the Yosagi, any Karzu Shidila, Manzu Kablin Chinju, then the Shaba in us, Chokden color of the Shaba in us. Chokden kolo ki kachokdan di ani rawe tigla shikde ani ko kachok res.
Of course, there's nothing special about them pointing from north towards the south. We could have said they went from south towards the north. It's just that we all have to agree, so we draw the same thing. So physicists say that the lines start in the north and they come around to the south.
Tadi deshe gyagdan jire madorwa. Ko changne de la mixe kejo ke yo mares ro nga zugi ani chenri ba sugi ani kharsore khable ngoy sung yu de ani khable gi thal rawani dos rawa gi ta rawa chunji gi thik thik ro rawa chunji thik ta thik du zo lone ne ya thwe ne changne lo ju res la ne dig res changne ne thwe ne lone lo ju res la ne dig yo res ro ta ina ya ngama ta kharsore doswe ro khari cha sa res la ba ina Lone ne tik du zote channe la zugyo res laidi ani shesu chaba res chezan dinde imba zide go res.
And these lines, they map out this invisible field that we've never been able to see before.
Cheza da khabling ge rawa khora rawe gi ta chik rawa jorwa di ina ngazu gi thela thong thoye yo ma res ra imba ina ya ta thanda de kharsure Kablin Tamu de Mangoji Shani, Dichi Undi, Ra, any Rawa de Kande over the Nazugi, that members or Chetu your rest.
These lines represent, so the magnetic force is what causes the compass to spin. These lines are the direction the compass points when it's in that position around the magnet.
Chizanda, the Karsore, Nazu Dendeji, T Undi Zambala, Tunji Shardugudoa. Da ina ya da chokden kholo ge da du zo den des la kharjine chogi yo res la ba ina ro ani da di ge da khablen ge rawa di chung ge ro ani rawa gi rawa di gi ani khablen chi gi shugyen de khablen shemba la da kharsore thep bar che tu ge yo res chida khablen ge rawa nang lo la ani chokden kholo du sha yin chokden kholo so so ge nang lo la ani khablen thamu re yo ro khonzu da tanda khablen ani chewa di ge ani rawa ni bara la shug ji thubne Ani shukdi chepala tene ani khablengi khapjodi judu res.
So, what I'm going to want all of you to do is we're going to give you graph paper and you're going to place a magnet in the center and draw a little box around it so you can always put it back in the same place. And then you're going to move your magnet around and directly underneath the magnet, draw a line showing which way the arrow points.
Ta tanda chego che di rwa, nganzu ki tanda di shugu di maatam gi rwa, shugu di ki de la khablen nana de sha, di khablen nana de gi ani kharsure thala tupsi jiti rwa khablen khandu yosa rwa, dine khablen gi tha de la ani chokden kolo di shagin chine 아니 디 ngazu rawe thik di soyo gores ra ta di soyo inde chodeng kolo thangbo de shagro shadu ni ko da di khandes tengdo ra da tendan di nashin chin remuti ra phang chin da re chin ligirwa le ne ni thama di ani kharsore rawa khandes to gudu di taya yins.
And do this all the way around, first one side, then the other.
dindi kita rawa chunji ki thik yorwa thik di ni chokden kologi ani chok thamje la yorwa ina ya thanda kyanzu ki shugugal thi undi ani sho ni la re thiro ches ra yengi ani sho de la rawe thik chunji ki thik chik ta ye de la chik chene thiro ches.
Once you have finished that, bring your magnet up to be wrapped in plastic, and you can look more closely at this.
dane di thitsa we jela ro ani kyanzu kablen di namni ya phe de la giksho do giksho di ge ni kablen di tum go res.
Yeah, we're going to wrap the magnets in plastic because we're going to make a big mess. So after you finish drawing it out, come up to wrap the magnet in plastic.
da di thitsa we jela ya phe ne ni kablen di giksho di nal tums ro ani di kapsu di kharsure shipsakujin de la signal di res.
And it will soon become obvious why your magnet needs to be wrapped in plastic.
ani di jela ni kyanzu gi ro kablen du zu giksho nal tum go gyunsen di jela kyanzu sigi res.
Does anyone else need magnets?
kablen go to west to kablen.
Did you guys need one more?
Mare gogo ge ni kablen ki malasha kablen di kharsure thagi tupsi di thi ra ani dine ne ni kablen khorang gi rawe thik chorwa odi ni khandes ne gi do di chwe go ra so kila law on du sha ta dine kablen di phechu chene ni khoi gi rawe thik di khande yung go do on di relata de tupsi chiti now di kima sharwa di thala ani thik tupsi chiti kablen khawa yesa di thik tupsi chiti rwa an thine ne chodon kholo di ani shagi ani kablen gi rawa di choyare.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And magnet here. And now do this and draw. So draw the direction the red line points. So it points that way. And then here, it also points that way. But
on the kablen di kila sha tupsi so mata di digor ge ende jig ma thik thi sarwa di gal kablen sha tene ne chokden kholo di kablen gi sulla shagi chine ne rawa di chwe gorda sha dine chewa ina esko dine go chura dine go chu indara inde kima de la shana ra chokden kholo dusting do da dusti ra dine ne
Yuka.
Kami rawat thi ina ra.
Andi tere demo jinji sera. Kanchi sari. Ya.
Kami rawat ki thagi thi yabu thi ina ra. Thi da shi song li ra.
Al dini thi na.
Cha ship do ha de re.
with the iron filings, the powder we gave you, it's actually little tiny pieces of iron.
tanda ngazu chema chik teswa di ya cha res ra cha shipshi cha gi chema res an di tor yundi jambala ani ko ba khande ji yung go dos So the pattern they get circular pattern around the magnet.
Right. So the iron filings followed the pattern of the field lines. So by sprinkling the iron over the magnet, we can actually see what the shape of the magnetic field looks like.
진짜 단다디 카르소레 짝체디 두 스토리인데 고고고 대체로와 대에디니 거기 단다 카블렌디게 라와 입 칸데요 바디 나시 입 송고요 레스 라 켄스웬 카블렌게 탈라 라와 칸데스 커요 바디 아니 시송기 아니 짝체도 네기요 레스.
So if we want it, so this just shows some of the field from looking at our magnets with the iron filings. We can see that what the field looks like is not just the circular part from top to bottom, but it circles like this too. Right?
제가 다 캬ンズ 단다 꼬바 토바딜라 다연들와 파기기 리모디나시 여바점도 마세 단디 아니 고고 충화된데 아니 여바직시송아스.
And we have, looks like this, away from the magnet.
되네네 여기 간데라야 카르두 닝에기 택시다 딘 택시 바드도 캬르로와 낭기도 와스.
So with magnets, this is one of the easiest thing to see, one of the easiest ways to see the shape of a field, which is ordinarily invisible.
균데 이나다 카블링게 라와단 로게 라와두조 ngazu 통토에 요마레스 이네다 카블링 라와 카블링더 자료인데 카블링 라와디다 통토에게 탑시 찍디디레스다 탑시 약쇼로 찍디 디레스다 디기 토네 ngazu 카블링 라와세 지기 카블링 라와에 둔지디니 셈나 차르토구레스.
So, would you like to ask any questions?
드네 캬ンズ 디와케 요베스.
No questions?
디단 데베 디와케 메베.
I see, came back. So, this was, well, I will tell you one more thing then. The origin of the magnetic field. So, for the electric field, we have these things called charge. There's a positive charge, there's a negative charge.
다 카르소레 라와 지단 라와 베나 로기 라와 더 차샤바이나 로기 라와 텐사디 카와니 튕겨레슬라나 아니 로쿠니 튕겨로와스 아니 간주 로쿠라 로쿠 포다 모슬라니 니체바임바.
Magnetic fields come from moving charges.
제가 다 카블링기 라와제로와 카블링기 아니 라와디 카와니 웅고여슬라나 단다 로쿠르와 아니 구교에 체발라테 구교에 체윤디 로쿠르 구교에 체윤디 아니 코라 카블링기 누바디 웅고여레스.
In most materials, the orbits, the electron motion is all random.
다 뒤에 망체 낭로라 코랑기 뒤에 탈라 꼭 망부체 꼭 소소나라 록도 여와 록도 dunzu 아니 구교 당당 예바스요 마레스 초 강사라 땅 데데요레스.
But in magnets, the electrons are all going around the same way.
이네 도 카블린 두즈와 도 카블린 난기 아니 단다 록도 두즈이나 고 구교 땅요도 꼬라치겨와 꼬라치도 창문 합쳐 튠베고는 꼬라체데요레스.
And it's that motion of all the electrons going in the same way that gives us the magnetic field.
딘데기다 코라디 투브제기 아니 뒤테와 카블린 투브제기 뒤테 난기 아니 로드이도조 코코라 합쳐 튠베고는 갸바 손자 디기 누발라테네 아니 카블린기 누바도 용고요레스.
And if there are no questions, when you have finished exploring what the magnetic field looks like with your iron filings, you may try to put as much back as possible into the two containers.
네 캬ンズ 아니 카르소레 디 독십시에 디 차수나로와 아니 작시도조 강망망 아파기 나로로 기담드니 강로시나 루로체스.
And that was all we had for today.
아니 아주 대링게 더 롭티 디타나 사와 인스